Hello, thank you for joining us for Pathway to Wings. I'm Major Kenneth Thomas, Air Force Recruiting Services, Detachment 1, C-130 Navigator. Today we're going to talk about Air Force Det 1, the Tuskegee Airmen and who they are, some legacy stories, aviation careers, some flight opportunities for you, and we're going to have a mentorship panel for you to ask some questions. Our Air Force Recruiting Services Det 1. FRS uses our external partners and strategic partners to inspire the next generation of aviators and work with our internal partners to help provide information and pathways for aviation careers. Our goal is to inform, influence, and inspire. We want to inform you of all the opportunities that are available to you and how to get there. We're going to influence you by guiding you on that path to get you to your goals. And we're going to inspire you with our stories so that you can see that the journey that we're on now is a journey that you can be on in the future. So the Tuskegee Airmen were the first black military pilots in the United States Armed Forces. It was in the Army Air Corps, which was the precursor to the United States Air Force. They did their training down in Tuskegee, Alabama. The Tuskegee Experiment is what it was actually called as they became the Tuskegee Airmen. But where did it all begin? So back in the 20s and 30s, when aviation really started to take off, everybody would hear about all the exploits of pilots all over the world and all over the nation, and everyone wanted to be part of it. The problem was that young African Americans who aspired to do this had a lot of obstacles when it came to trying to become pilots. There were a lot of people who felt that they weren't going to be able to operate sophisticated equipment and that they shouldn't be allowed to do it and that it was dangerous. Well, there were a lot of people who disagreed with that and fought to help change that and change that perception. There's a lot of people who lobbied to give African Americans the opportunity to be able to fly. And the Tuskegee Experiment was exactly what break. The Tuskegee Experiment was exactly that. The military came up with a training program to prove, well, back up, stop right there, edit. Many groups lobbied to open up training to black pilots. One of the ways they did that was with the Tuskegee Experiment. There was a lot of people who still felt that black people aren't going to be able to fly. So they said, well, let's set up this Tuskegee Experiment to see what will happen. They started the program. They believed that they did not have the capability to become competent pilots. The hypothesis was blacks did not possess the knowledge, aptitude, or reflexes or courage to fly in combat. They were set up. Program's trainees were nearly all college graduates from all over the country. And during that time, soldiers and commanders had no desire and refused to work with pilots or work for these black pilots. So in addition to the 1,000 black pilots, Tuskegee trained nearly 14,000 bombardiers, instructors, mechanics, control operators, radio operators, lawyers, doctors. Everyone that supports the operation of flying aircraft was trained there. And they were all black. People think about the Tuskegee Airmen. A lot of times we just think about the pilots, but it's everybody who supported and made the mission happen. During World War II, the 99th Pursuit Squadron deployed to North Africa. The Tuskegee Airmen were thought to be inferior, so they weren't initially put on the front lines. But the Tuskegee Airmen stayed prepared and trained and trained and trained so that they'd be ready to fight when their opportunity came. And when that time came, when they were deployed to Italy, alongside the 100th, the 301st, and the 302nd to form the 332nd Fighter Group, they were prepared to fight, and they were a formidable opponent for the German fighter pilots. Their motto was, we fight, we fight, we fight, and that's what they did. By the end of the war, the 332nd had more than 15,000 individual sorties and spent nearly 2 years in combat. In all, they had destroyed nearly 36 German airplanes in the air, 230-something on the ground, and nearly 1,000 transport cars and transportation vehicles of the Germans. So they had a huge impact on the success of the war. After returning home from fighting the atrocities of the world of racism, they came back home to America to the racism and prejudice in America. These highly trained pilots, mechanics, and professionals had gained such valuable knowledge in defending freedom and came home and were unable to get work even though they were highly skilled. They were second-class heroes. What they did represented an important step forward in preparing the nation for desegregation in the civilian world and in the military. Once they returned in 1948, President Truman issued an executive order that desegregated the military and guaranteed equal opportunities for all in the United States military. There are a number of Tuskegee Airmen who, after returning from the war, were able to go live long military careers, successful military careers. Benjamin O. Davis became the first black general in the United States Air Force. George Spanky Roberts, retired as a colonel, was the first commander of a racially integrated unit. And General Chappie James became the first black four-star general in 1975. The legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen lives with all of us. The Tuskegee Airmen legacy is the Air Force legacy. And it's the legacy that we live. Because of their sacrifice and courage, they prove that race does not determine your ability and skill. Let them motivate you to overcome any obstacles you have to achieve your goals. They have given motivation and an example to how there is no barrier that can't be overcome, and that with hard work and dedication, you will not be denied anything. Continue the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen. What will your legacy be?